Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shabazz. Thank you for joining us today. It's 1 o'clock here in Toronto, so I think we'll get started. Welcome to our webinar, where we'll be showing you how you can use our tools from the new CaseWare suite to create opportunities for your practice today. Our new suite contains cloud-based applications that can help you with all areas of your practice. There's a PBC tool to help you exchange documents and records with your clients, a cloud-based audit tool to complete full audits in the cloud through guided workflows, an analytics AI tool to help you analyze data to identify risky areas, and a cloud-based review and compilation tool. Today, we'll specifically focus on review contacts, or RCT as we'll refer to it, which is a full cloud-based engagement solution to complete review and compilation engagements in the cloud with integrated tax. Just some housekeeping before we kick things off. The session is being recorded today and will be available to all attendees afterwards. Additionally, although everyone has been muted, there's a Q&A box available for your questions, and we'll try to address as many of these as possible at the end of the webinar. So a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Shabazz and I lead the customer success function for CaseWare in Canada. As a CPA myself, I spent the last 5 years in public practice at regional, national, and Big Four accounting firms in various service lines. My focus area has always been engagements for privately owned businesses in audit, tax, and compilations. Presenting alongside me today is Aaron Oliver, who is our Director of Sales for North America. Aaron has tremendous experience helping firms of all sizes evaluate and implement the technology tools that are best suited for their practice.
Hey Shabazz, hi everyone. It's great to see so many people on the webinar today.
So before getting into the product itself, I wanted to talk a little bit about the landscape we were facing today. For many of us, especially those of us with children who have been home from school, we can all relate to the picture above, our children joining us at work. This has been a reality for a lot of us, and it's just one example of how we've had to change the way we work. I know that during the pandemic, I've been able to meet many of my coworkers' families, even if just for an impromptu, often unexpected visit from one of their children. Just last week, actually, I had the pleasure of meeting one of Aaron's children for the first time during one of our meetings. In my role, I consider myself very fortunate to speak with practices of all sizes, and although the challenges experienced by us have all been unique during this time, the one thing that I can confidently say has been a consistent challenge experienced by everyone, likely everyone on this call as well, has been uncertainty. Initially, there's uncertainty surrounding how practices will transition, how staff will adapt, how technology would hold up, excuse me, sorry, in how the busy season will change, deadlines, extensions, and obviously new programs that came as a result of COVID. It's been a period of rapid pivoting required by accountants and accounting firms. Fortunately for many practices, busy season has sort of passed by, although there's been some extensions in the deadline, and although much different, firms were able to adapt quick to new ways of working. I think that this busy season was a testament to what firms are capable of doing and how quickly they're able to change when their processes require them to. So what was the biggest change? I think that remote work, like mentioned, was one of the biggest changes required from accountants and accounting firms during this past busy season. As many of us can all relate, work from home has increased substantially, and here at CaseWare, we've been no different. We started working from home slightly before the provincial closure was announced, but we know we weren't alone. A recent study done by McKinsey looked at remote working levels by businesses across various sectors, and as you can see from the second bar, professional and business services firms have had a 69 percentage point increase in remote work. Looking at business trends from similar studies and speaking to firms in general, many firms that I speak to say that they continue to plan to have a remote work model, at least partially, even after the lockdown lifts. This may mean that some firms allow all employees to work from home on certain days of the week. Some have indicated they might have a staggered comeback where employees are separate groups, and some come back a few days a week and some work other days a week from the office. And some just said that they plan to let employees choose going forward how they want to work because they felt like the employees were productive enough during the period work from home, and also they see a lot of other benefits to it. I think that it's tough to say right now what the future holds for the profession in terms of a full remote model, but I think that with remote work, a lot of firms have seen some benefits. Speaking with firms, the first one that I hear about often is obviously the potential to reduce overhead, especially in metros with high commercial real estate costs. I think we'll increasingly see firms reevaluate how much of a physical presence they actually need, especially as lease renewals come up and firms decide not to renew. A second benefit that I think that the cloud accounting firms have been taking advantage of for a long time that will now be open to a lot of other firms is the ability to tap into expertise and staff across the country and even beyond the country. With millennials making up the largest portion of our workforce, and millennials increasingly prefer to work kind of on an on-demand or ad hoc basis, referred to as a gig economy, and as well as them wanting to live further and further from high cost of living areas because of rising house prices, I think that there's been a challenge to retain and to have long-term staff at accounting firms in the past. And I think that might change with COVID and with working from home. I think also with the ability to get more on-demand staff and have staff across the country or different areas, you can now offer more service lines to your clients. And I think we'll increasingly see firms change the offerings that they provide. A good example of this is US tax services. Often firms that couldn't do this in-house would turn away a client that might have significant Canadian tax work because they couldn't service the US side for that client. I think going forward, and what I'm hearing from firms is that they've found contractors that do this kind of work. They might be across the country or might be outside of the country, but they can easily have that employee or have that contractor doing that kind of work for them, so they can still take on the rest of the client's business and service that client in-house. I think third, another benefit we see from remote work is the ability to leverage technology to increase efficiency. We've all had to change the way we work and the tools that we adopted. I think even like from a consumer perspective, if I look at myself, like I had to use Instacart for my groceries or Amazon for my deliveries, and even today we're on GoToWebinar for our meeting. And I think that overall COVID has resulted in consumers making significant leaps in their digital adoptions. A recent McKinsey study found that consumers went 5 years ahead in their digital adoption in a period of about 8 weeks. And I think as a result, customers and staff will expect practitioners and firms to embrace technology to bring those efficiencies to their practice as well. So why is embracing technology, or why is increasing efficiency even important? I think for one, increasing efficiency increases your capacity. Sorry, Aaron, could you just go back to the previous slide for just a second? Yeah. I think that for one, increasing efficiency increases your capacity to offer other services to your clients. So our profession, long before COVID, has been undergoing a shift. So some practitioners realize this and were very forward with this, whereas other ones were just starting to get on top of the trend. And I think that trend was the realization that advisory services over and above compliance is very important to clients. And I think that there's no surprise this is important. If you look at some studies in the graphs that I presented, you'll see that firms that offer advisory type services to their clients often make more per client and have a larger contribution from their employee per employee to their firm. So I think that firms started recognizing this need, and especially the large firms, we saw significant investments in advisory and consulting type practices and to find creative ways to offer those consulting and advisory services to their existing assurance customers. I think for the smaller and mid-sized practices, fortunately enough, a big component of the relationship of our relationship with our clients was always to provide that business advisor type service. And I think that's why the clients chose the smaller, the mid-sized practice rather than going to an offshore accounting firm. And I think that this puts us in a really unique position in this segment to capitalize on this opportunity to use value-added services to increase revenue for the firm and profitability, but also to enhance our relationships with our clients. As a past accountant myself, I understand this challenge. I mean, we all mean to do well, and I remember when I was in practice, there's always the struggle of trying to keep your clients compliant, and as good as your intentions are, you want to do value-added activities, but it's just tough because capacity is always tight and WIP is always too high. So no matter how good our intentions may have been, it can be challenging at times to provide that additional advisory. But I think today we don't have a choice anymore. I think clients have changed their expectation of what their accountant is for them and what he has to offer them or she. And I think that apart from just wanting this business advisor type service, we can see that clients are happy to reward accounting firms and pay them for it. And I think a case where we understand this challenge faced by firms, and it's actually one of the largest driving forces behind what inspired us to develop our tools. So how can technology and our tools help you? We'll talk about, Aaron, you can go on the next slide now. Yeah. So our tools, we recognize that the profession is shifting, and expectations of the clients were changing as well. So we want to find ways to empower accountants like yourselves with the right tools. And a great example of technology and disruption, when I think about it always, is a T1 process. So if you look at T1, say like 20, 30, or 40 years ago, the personal income tax return, it was a staple of every practice, and a lot of firms had significant amounts of revenue driving from this T1 service offering. But what happened, there's a shift, I think, We went from like doing a lot of T1s on paper, mind you, to doing a lot of T1s through a software. And I think from then the shift was, okay, we're doing a lot of these T1s in the software, but then the software got consumerized, and then consumers, the taxpayers started doing the returns themselves. And now I think somewhere even 90% or plus percent of people do their personal tax return either through a free software themselves or through a paid home-based software. And even that's shifting online. But so that changed the expectations. So the clients that do pay a firm for a T1 service expect a lot more than a T1 now. They're expecting proactive advice, maybe some remuneration planning. They have complex cross-border issues. But I think from a technology and a firm perspective, we see the transition overall. We see going from doing a lot of one type of engagement on paper to doing a smaller amount in technology. And then even now the technology shifted where you can download all the information from CRA's website into your return. So I think that that's a prime example of disruption by technology in the service offerings by a firm and even the revenue earned by the firm on a certain type of engagement. So CaseWare, being a trusted leader in the space, saw this, and we recognize that the practices are shifting, and recognizing the way of working will need to evolve for other areas of our practice. RCT was created. RCT is a tool that we developed to help you complete review and compilation engagements with integrated tax in the cloud really as efficiently as possible. Some practitioners even say up to 30% faster. So the goal is to help achieve compliance more efficiently and help you uncover ways to deliver more value to your clients through your compilation and compliance engagements, but also by freeing up your time for other advisory work. I'll pass it on to Aaron, who will do a deeper dive into the tool, and he can show you ways how we're using collaboration and to help you increase and meet the expectations of your clients, but also to increase your efficiency.
Okay, thanks, Shabazz. So when we developed CaseWare RCT, we really wanted to leverage cloud technology, basically to achieve all the things that Shabazz has just highlighted. We not only want to produce a product that can more efficiently complete compliant engagements, but we also want to provide new tools to enable you to add more value quickly. CaseWare RCT combines many areas of your practice into one unified workflow, but also provides new capabilities to enable you to provide more value to your clients. With CaseWare RCT, we have one application that can run your reviews, compilations, and tax in one solution. And as Shabazz mentioned, the T1 has radically changed, and we see an integrated T2 as a great opportunity to not only remove duplication and work, but also really to ultimately free up that time to provide more value add. So when the trial balance is imported into RCT, it automatically flows to both your financial statements and your tax forms alike. And if changes are made, you can make these changes in one system, maintaining that sole source of truth. Other content like letters and PEG content are also built in and integrated. So this means we don't need Word, Excel, or some other template to manage this kind of content as well. Guided workflow has also been built throughout. And the idea is we want to be able to quickly and easily keep staff moving from one step to the next, keeping them focused and efficient. And we've also developed optimizer documents as part of the solution. And what these do is they actually scope in the right content at the right time to ensure quality and accuracy, but also to extract and present value-added insights into the data at hand. To enhance the client experience that we're touching on, and to keep up with these evolving expectations, we've actually integrated an entire provided by client or PBC management tool that integrates the PBC processes, but also provides visibility to both your staff and your clients, so everyone is up to date on what's completed and what remains open. This is part of the client portal functionality, and as a cloud-based solution, CaseWare RCT is completely multi-user with real-time updates, and you can all collaborate together from any number of locations. So the idea is we're connecting data, workflow, and results. So this pretty much brings us to CaseWare Cloud, and we're going to take a look at an RCT engagement. So this is an actual engagement. I've created an engagement. This is the document manager, and the very first step in the engagement is that planning optimizer document, the optimization process that we're talking about. So if I click into the optimizer, we're presented with essentially like an intelligent checklist. Some of this is already populated based on information we already have on hand, the client type. But our very first question really is what type of engagement is being performed? And we have a number of options at this particular time. If I was to select review and corporation tax, it would be a different set of questions than if I was to select a compilation and corporate tax, which is what we're going to start with. We'll talk about reviews a little bit later with the integrated PEG content, but we're going to start off here with a compilation. Would you like to generate a bookkeeping services engagement letter? I'll say no. Is this the first year of operations for the entity? No. Is it the first year they filed a corporate tax return? No. So we're probably going to import some history. Were you the accountant that performed the engagement with this client the prior year? I'll say yes. If this was a review, it would generate a continuance letter instead of an acceptance letter, as an example of some of this dynamic adjustment. In this case, it's a compilation, so it's going to generate a compilation letter, which we're going to get to in just a second. I'll go ahead and answer a few more questions. We have ASPE Financials as the framework, and does your accounting practice have only one practicing partner? I'll say no, maybe I'm a sole practitioner, and this will start to singular wording in the letters instead of pluralization. The next step would be to click this little link here, which guides the staff into the engagement letter. But very quickly, I just want to hop back to the document manager just to show everyone all of the content has populated. So this is all the required content, but I do want to go back into the optimizer just to show the intended workflow, which is that next step button. So I click next step, that drives me right into the engagement letter, which is done. We do have nice placeholders, so the staff can actually click placeholders remaining and it'll jump them to the next thing that they need to fill out. So I'll go ahead and select today's date. In CaseWare Cloud, we would have a list of your clients. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the client through. Again, everything's sole sourced. And we'd go and work our way through the various placeholders, but I'm going to sign off right now just to show everyone that we also have some built-in warnings or diagnostics, if you will. So we'll warn the user that 19 placeholders still need to be filled in just to make sure your staff don't forget anything. I'm going to go ahead and click yes just to override this. I'll scroll to the bottom and I'll jump to the next step. Again, we're guiding your staff through the workflow to our query system, which really is the built-in PBC tool. So you'll see that we have the engagement letter. It's already done, completed, kind of loaded, ready to send to the client. But through some of that optimization, some of those intelligent checklists, we also know that you're probably going to need a trial balance. We'll need a copy of the data file, maybe some entity-specific documents, bank statements, those kinds of items. And I'm going to go ahead and click send. And again, powered by cloud, I'm going to quickly pull through those clients so we can choose who this goes to, as well as maybe some context. So what's happening here is she will get an email notifying her of this request. And we're going to give her a little context in the body of that email before she logs into the secure site. Hi, Sarah. Please sign and return the following documentation. And I'll go ahead and I'll click OK, and that email has triggered off.
Hey, Aaron, could you show what the client would see? So that once it's sent off to the client, did they see exactly what we're showing on the screen over here? Did they have a different view? I think it'd be great if we could show that to everyone on the call today.
Yeah. Well, because of the integrated approach, not only are they going to be able to see some of the same stuff, but we even have, if you look at the top left-hand corner, we've got this really great workflow. So we can already see that 12 are awaiting response and 0 have actually been responded, 0 been returned, 0 been completed. The client is going to see the same set of information. So I'm going to actually open up a separate browser just so I can actually show what the client experience will look like. I'm going to go ahead and go into my inbox here, and here's the email from Smith & Jones CPA. That's us. It's nicely branded, of course. She has a little bit of context, so she knows what she's clicking into, but she does need to click into our secure site, log in with her secure credentials before she's going to be able to see this. So again, the notification is email, but the actual handoff of sensitive information is through portal. She'll see the same list of documents that we've sent off. She'll see the same workflow. So she's going to know exactly where she sits. So when we looked at this, we really wanted to create visibility on both ends so that nobody's left wondering where they're at. Also, your staff don't have to use maybe Excel spreadsheets or some other program to manage, these PPC processes, or God forbid, sifting through emails trying to figure out where they sit. All they have to do is work their way through the tool, send it off to the client. Everybody has true visibility in what's going on. As far as like the actual providing of information, drag and drop functionality, I can quickly pull in like a signed engagement letter here. I will click respond. So it's already been sent. We've already received a notification that she's responded to this one item. I'm going to go ahead and add a copy of the trial balance, maybe a copy of the data file. And over on the accounts receivable summary over here, and maybe I'll just pop in a comment. So we can also track comments as well, so she doesn't have to pick up the phone or send you an email if she has some questions. Hi, wondering if this is the right doc. And I'll go ahead and click comment. She's going to go ahead and hit respond. And again, we're going to get notified, and we can see that the workflow has already updated. On our end, we can come in. We can use a professional judgment. If we're satisfied with what we received, we actually accept it, then it becomes part of the engagement. Maybe I want to go ahead and return to her, no, I need the detailed version, add my comment, and I'm going to go ahead and return this to her. Okay, so we have full control and we have proper workflows to manage this entire process. Also, once we've actually accepted that document, it's going to slide itself right into the predestined placeholder in the document manager. You do have control over this. If you want to create your own placeholders, you want to create your own structure, you can tailor this. But even in the base template that we provide, we've already done all of this for you. And it's also a cloud product, again, meaning it's completely multi-user. So on the top right-hand corner, you can see that Shabazz is in this file with myself. He's gone ahead and he signed off on this document as well. So as we're working the file together, we're both going to be able to see, or have as many of us that are in the file are going to be able to see all the work that the other people are doing.
Yeah, and again, like I just went in and signed that off right now. So it updates in absolute real time because it is a cloud product, like Aaron mentioned.
Okay, so we have the trial balance. We have the signed engagement letter. We're pretty much ready to start and import the TB. It's worth noting, we still support the same 50+ desktop packages that we've always been able to support. We've heard this is a very big value add as far as what people might be used to in working papers. We still support Excel. We can actually migrate directly from working papers. We might touch on that a little bit more later. But we also have direct integration with QuickBooks Online and Xero, so popular online accounting packages as well. We built those APIs out. So I'm actually going to go through and do Xero right now. And I'm going to log into my client's Xero account here. And when I import, it's actually going to automatically apply both the tax and the financial groupings, meaning the data is flowing through to my financial statements and my tax forms immediately. I do want the prior year for some comparative reports. And you might have noticed that I called it the data page. Historically, we might have referred to something like this as a working trial balance. It still is a working trial balance, but we've rebranded the data page because trial balance information is essentially data. And there's lots of ways that we want to help firms leverage that data as part of your business advisory services, becoming that trusted advisor. And we'll look at a few of the ways that we can do that. So again, the groupings are already applied, so the financial statements and tax forms are populated as we speak. We'll go to those in just a second. But I can also go in here and add some variance columns. I can sort by, maybe I just want to see material accounts if we're working with a review. I can also go ahead and maybe sort by specific ranges of values, numerical values for accounts. I could also go to maybe something that has issues, or I just want to see my cash items. We can even drill into the actual transactions themselves. Just gonna do a quick refresh. So when I'm in my cash area, we'll actually see the amount. So with Xero, we can pull in that transactional information as an example, and I could come in here and start to take a look at the actual transactions it's made of, and we can start to run even additional filters. So when you were invited to this particular webinar, there are a series of webinars, so we're not going to go too much into detail on this one, but if you attend maybe next week's audit, they will touch on audit and the AI component. That would definitely leverage this component. So again, we want to leverage the data wherever possible, but we also want to make it presentable immediately, automatically, so that you can start to take a deep dive into those numbers without really any additional work. So we also have an analytical overview document that we've included, and this is going to give you a nice visual interpretation of all that underlying data. So to Shabazz's earlier point about enabling us to become trusted advisors and build value, we have this built-in analysis ready to go. We have all sorts of important relationships. We've got ratios. We can quickly assess what the numbers really mean to the client's business.
And Aaron, if we want to provide this to our clients, how do we do that?
Well, we can quickly share this all out with the built-in portal functionality. We can save it as PDF, and it's pretty much instantly shareable with the client. And of course, you can choose what you want to share and what you don't want to share.
And I think it's also worth noting that some of the relationships we're showing you over here, you can actually even include in your financial statements. Isn't that correct, Aaron?
Yeah, good point. We're going to show you how we can actually just add it to the financial statements as well, just to make it that much easier. So on the financial statement topic, we do have an optimizer document. So the first optimizer that we looked at was really just the first in a number of optimizers available in RCT or built in. If I go to my financial statement optimizer, we can actually start to answer some questions, and it's going to modify essentially the output, the deliverables. So for instance, would you like to combine retained earnings with a statement of income and loss? I'll click yes. This just changed from two separate statements to a combined statement. Would you like to include analysis graphs as part of your financial statements? To Shabaz's question, yes. So we've just added those financial statements to the lower section of those financials. Would you like to include a variance column? I'm going to go ahead and say no, but we can add percentage or dollar signs or both if you want to include some of those. Statement of cash flows, probably don't need that for a compilation. Notes to the financials, maybe this client does need 1 or 2 notes. I can click yes, and they'll actually allow us to select some notes from here. In a review, it does give you the option to pull a disclosure note checklist because there is a very large, robust disclosure note library built into this as well that we're going to look at in a bit. But I'll go ahead and add a quick restricted cash note or a quick cash and cash equivalents note, sorry. Maybe this particular client doesn't like balance sheet. They want to see statement of financial position. I don't have to go into the financials and rejig it. I can just click a button and it's going to apply. And I'm going to go ahead and say more than one director, no. And again, it's going to singular, or it would have pluralized the words in some of those reports as well. Next step button, again, we're going to guide your staff to the next logical step in the engagement, which is to actually go into those financials now. And we're going to see all those changes have been applied. So we have a combined retained earnings. We have a statement of financial position. We have a notice to reader that's already built in. We've got those financial statement graphs, and we've got notes at the bottom. There's the graphs that Shabazz was asking about, so we've added those to the bottom. Here's our statement of financial position. And if you do want to change like the look and feel of these financials, we do have a like a template in RCT. So if you want to make a change, you want different fonts, you want different styles, you can do that at a template level, and then it's going to be applied on a go-forward basis. So you have complete control over the output as well. On the notes, here's our new cash and cash equivalent note. Now, if I just wanted to instead add the note from here, I could just go and insert from the library. So we kind of just touched on that library. So we have a big list of notes, all nicely categorized and broken down into groups just to make them easy to find. Maybe I'll pick in this case a restricted cash note. Staff wants a quick preview. Wants a quick preview. They'll get a nice preview just to make sure it is what they're looking for, and then they can click add. And that note is automatically applied. It'll renumber, reformat as needed.
And I think it's worth noting that all these notes are included as part of RCT, and as updates are required from CPA content, when we release updates into the cloud, they'll get updated as well. So you don't have to manually go and update any of the notes that's included part of the package. They'll get updated.
Yeah, good point, Shabazz. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, so we do have paid content built throughout, and that would include the updating of notes as well. Now we could also add a note from scratch, and I can go ahead and create a note, and the same dynamic table functionality that I'm going to use to quickly create a note in under a minute, you could actually use to create or modify those financial statements we're looking at a moment ago. So one of the things we really wanted to achieve as well is we want to include as much content as possible, but if you do need to create your own content, we want to make it really easy. So if anyone's used CaseView in the past or other templates, that kind of thing, it's not always been the case. So I'm going to go ahead and create a note, and we'll see how easy it is. I will create a quick PP&E note, and I'll go ahead and add a text section, and I'll say for the period, current year to FX, should put the year start date to year end date. So these are now dynamic. I'll go ahead and add a dynamic table. So this is the dynamic table functionality specifically, and I'm going to go ahead and edit it. If we want to add more rows, we can add more rows. We can add more columns. We can add more columns up here. I'm going to add trial balance row. I'll just quickly search for property, plant, and equipment. It's going to pull it right from the database. We have a nice expand button. So I could add the individual lines, but we could just use this nice functionality to do that. Maybe we want like an underline over here, and perhaps a commentary row or something like that. And then maybe a page break. And just like that, save and close, we have a note.
I think for those of us that are keeping track, that was less than 60 seconds. And I think that the fact that you're able to click everything but have it still tied into your trial balance without using formulas is really what excites me when it comes to making these notes.
Yeah, and again, if you were to make this note, we would recommend that you do that at the template level so it's available in all future engagements, and then staff are just pulling from that firm approved content, but it just to quickly show you how easy it is, we can do it just right here too. Or if you know that this particular client needed something that unique that other clients wouldn't, you can still make that change at the engagement level. Okay, so we also talked a little bit about the financial, and also placeholders. So, I mean, you can basically, again, we want to just click, 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 and staff are just, they know what they have to do next. They can quickly scroll through. We do have a a tax optimizer as well. So when we looked at the whole efficiencies and removing duplication of work and the opportunity to have an integrated tax built into the RCT product, we also built a tax optimizer checklist. And we discussed earlier some of the benefits of combining them together to basically have one sole source of truth. Well, even the responses in this tax optimizer checklist, they're automatically populating for us based on a little bit of combination of logic, based on information on hand in CaseWare Cloud, and also based on earlier checklists. So the very, very first checklist we went through, it said, is this the first year of filing a corporation tax return after incorporation? Well, you've already answered it once. We don't need you to answer it again, or you don't have to go to another product to potentially answer that again. Is the corporation inactive? Well, we're working on it, so it's pretty logical that no, it's not inactive. What kind of company is it? This is built into the cloud properties. And you can basically work your way through the checklist. You'll notice some red bars. These are required diagnostics for the e-file, which we'll touch on in a bit. And we also have quick links that you can jump right into individual tax forms if you want to work your way through the tax forms. We also have a nice header at the top, which will give you, for instance, like taxable income versus your net income. And we can also pull down a nice comparative 5-year work chart. And when we look at importing, we want you to be able to import from the history. So if you're coming in from, say, something like tax prep, we have a tax prep CSV import, which will pull in the history, the TB history, which will populate those tax forms. We can also T2 autofill, as long as they filed at some point before, and then Giphy worst case. We can also export to Giphy. So if you do want to file in another product, you can still do that, but hopefully people see enough benefit in being able to do it in one place that they're going to go ahead and ultimately get to the e-file. Now, before you e-file, you're going to probably want to run through your diagnostics. So we have a diagnostics page to help you get through those. We can filter by severity. So for instance, just required or maybe warnings, as well as categories. And we can also quickly click into a particular diagnostics. It'll pull me right to that sheet. And actually, I don't know if you noticed, but actually pulled me down and I get a nice red pulsing couple squares here. They're rectangles that are just basically letting me know exactly what I need to fill. And if I want to come in here, I'll go ahead and click yes. And maybe while I'm in here, I'm just going to go ahead and clear the rest of the sheet, and I'm done this particular form. Once you've gone through and cleared all of those diagnostics and you're ready for e-file, we are approved in all 13 provinces and territories. You have to have obviously the right credentials to log in, but you log in, you click e-file, and it's submitted and approved by CRA. We do also have a pre-validation tool if you wanted to run a pre-validation at some point earlier. We've built this in recently as well.
I think one thing to also highlight is because the tax module is integrated with your review or compilation file, any adjustments you post or in the review and comp will automatically flow to your Giphy as well. So for example, if over here after you did your tax, you saw that the tax payable, but there's no provision recorded, you could go back and make an adjustment for your tax provision, but you don't have to update your schedule 100 to 125 in your tax return. It actually update itself because it's all integrated into one module.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, we just cut down on that duplication. So when we hit the end of the engagement, we'll kind of transition to some deliverables. The same TBC functionality that we were talking about earlier, it's not just for like requesting things. It's also for at the end of the engagement, delivering the financial statements, possibly management rep letter. Again, they're all built in. You don't have to really do anything to have these completed other than the typical workflow, but the content-wise, it's included. And again, all I do is click send, and this will send those financial statements off to whichever client I choose, give them some context, click OK, and we'll be notified when they've actually gone ahead and essentially respond and taken in those documents. And from a self-serve or continuation perspective, from a client experience or a client satisfaction, we're providing them with just more customer-centric tools to do this. And maybe next year they want to come in and get that completed return from last year, a couple of years ago. They don't have to pick up the phone or come to the office or get a hold of you. They're going to be able to go into their portal and be able to retrieve a lot of these items. Now, for those of you that are interested in the review functionality, there is going to be a post-webinar email. We're going to direct everyone to a more detailed recording. taking a deeper dive into some of the functionality that maybe wasn't covered today, as well as the review specifically as well. And it's going to cover areas like setting the materiality to which automatically scopes in material work programs, additional PBC requests like understanding the entity, understanding the business. So obviously in a review, there's a lot more gathering of records and documents. And I should highlight too, if I go into my queries, we're actually going to get a readout of all the different batches of queries that we're sending out. So anyone in the firm can come into one shared dashboard and they're going to be able to see the progress of all these various batches, including who they're sent to. So just one more way that we're able to keep everyone on the same page. And the work programs in the review product, as an example, have those same PEG-based procedures. So we know like the two required components are the procedures and the analysis. So what we've done is we've actually combined both the procedures and some of that analysis visuals that we saw into those work programs. But that pretty much concludes the end of like the demo session. So back to you, Shabazz.
Thanks, Aaron, for that demonstration of RCT. So when I look at the technological tools available to firms today, and I compare the way the practice operates today or can operate today to how it was 20 or 30 years ago, it really gets me excited for the future. I mean, especially when you're talking about integrated tax and how easy it was to make the notes. I think we've come a long way and the profession's come a long way in how we operate and how we complete our engagements. I think that being digital is something our profession was always working towards, but something COVID really just accelerated for us. And I think the new normal and recovery after COVID will be digital for a lot of businesses. Actually, a recent McKinsey study noted that the recovery of businesses post-COVID will largely be digital in three key areas. The first one, implementing new technology to meet customer expectations. The second one, modernizing processes through technological capabilities to change the way you operate internally. And three, increasing your staff's efficiency and velocity. And I think although businesses are transitioning to this now, and they will be transitioning more in the recovery stages, I think it just accelerated what accounting firms were already getting ready to do and heading towards for some time. And I think it's just a faster pace now. And I think the last few months, especially because we had to adapt, I mean, it's the busiest time of the year for practices and we're kind of forced to change the way we work, was a testament, again, like I mentioned, of what we're capable of doing when we want to rethink and rejig our processes. So I think with RCT, Aaron was able to show us how we can work remotely in the cloud to exchange documents with your clients. I think that touches on that consumer expectation piece, and I think it's something that customers are going to want from us in the future. I think if a client says to us, "Hey, I don't want to come in and drop off my stuff," or "You can't come into my office to pick it up," we don't really have a choice but to meet that expectation from the customer. I think it's tools like the query functionality that are going to be able to do that for us. With the guided workflows and embedded content, you're able to see how we can modernize the firm's tech stack and completely change the way a compliance engagement was done. And all of this is done with the focus to increase the efficiency and your staff's velocity as well. I think all these features come together and with the goal to create more opportunities for your firm today. And really what we want to do is make it so that you can increase your capacity to be more of that business advisor for your clients. Some studies go as far as saying that the number one reason that small businesses switch accountants is because they don't see their accountant as a trusted advisor anymore. And because the core compliant product, I think, in a compilation or review or tax engagement is so similar across firms, I think it's through value-added items like the analysis that we saw or the better customer experience through a portal and notifications and keeping track of that stuff. And obviously the freed up time to build a relationship is going to be ways for firms to be proactive in technology and to also set yourselves apart from every other firm that's going to also be on this accelerated rapid journey of changing the way that they work. Now more than ever, I feel that businesses not only need more, but also expect more from their accountants and their experience with them. A recent ADP survey just last month, so very recent, was done for the US market and looked at US firms, but I think the results are similar for Canada. It found that a third of firms responding felt that 10% or more of their small businesses would not survive the COVID recovery. And I think that with the sad reality being that many small businesses may not be the same after COVID, especially without help from professionals like us, it's even more important that we have that time available to help our clients with their business to ensure their survival, but also to ensure our survival and our competitiveness as the whole landscape for accounting changes. So that's it for our presentation, but we'd love to take some questions now. I know I saw some come in throughout the presentation, so we'll start off with those. But if you have any questions, we can stick around for a bit, and Aaron and I are happy to help answer any questions you have about the tool or about where we see the future going in certain areas. And so feel free to use the Q&A box to send them. One question over here I see is, can more than one person be in an RCT file? Yeah, so we kind of show that when Aaron and I were both in the file on the top right, it showed that I was also in it, and I was able to sign off. So because it's a cloud environment, and because you're working really, as long as you have a tablet or a phone or a laptop, wherever you are, you can log in from anywhere, and you can work remotely. So definitely more than one person can be in an RCT file at the same time. There's another question over here asking about the security and the kind of security we have for RCT. Aaron, did you want to field this question? I know this is an area that you're very passionate about.
Yeah, so over the years, we've definitely had a lot of questions around security. It's, it's paramount. We take it very seriously as well, as you mentioned earlier. So, I mean, first and foremost, all the Canadian firms are in Canadian data centers, backups, redundancy, the works. That was like a core component. ISO 27001 compliance is in place. SOC 2 type 1 and 2 is in place. So, your data is segregated. We have all the internal processes in place. Also, everything's encrypted at rest. We partnered up with Amazon Web Services. That's where the data sits. So we wanted to partner up with, the best provider out there. You can even turn on dual factor authentication right now. You can control session management. So and there is a security page on our website if you want to take a deep dive into this, but those are, some of the top pieces we have in place.
Perfect, thank you for that, Aaron. Aaron, there's another question on a user asking how they can move from working papers desktop. I guess they're existing working papers clients that are considering RCT. Can you speak a little bit about the transition from working papers to RCT?
Yeah, we've built a cloud bridge tool that we would, you'd have access to. So if you choose the working paper import instead of, say, the zero import that we ran today, you can download a quick cloud bridge tool. You essentially just insert that into the old file, you double click, and it remaps it to the mapping in cloud, basically how it works, and then it just takes your old groupings, plows them to the new groupings, and it will flow through like we saw today.
Perfect. So there's a question over here asking about the financial statement template customization. So yeah, you're correct. So again, the question was, is there a recent change to the customization of templates? Because the last time they tried it, it wasn't as flexible. So given the fact that RCT is a cloud product, we're able to do releases a lot faster. So the product is constantly improving based on feedback from our users. And we have made some new changes to the flexibility and of RCT and the customization. So again, this was again just the tip of the iceberg, but we'd love to if you could take a deeper dive. Aaron spoke a bit about the customization. You can change the fonts and you can make the template look the way you want at the template level. So your statements applies to all your engaged files. That being said, our goal with RCT really is to create a software to make you ensure you're compliant as efficiently as possible. And in doing so, we recognize that we wanted to make it very easy for you to customize items. So if you saw when Aaron was adding the notes, there wasn't any formulas to enter, there wasn't any cell references. And I think in doing that, it also does limit a bit of the customization. But yeah, definitely, we constantly make updates and improvements, and we take any feedback that anyone shares with us. So there's a likelihood that if you did share feedback about something that you wanted for customization, that it could have been implemented now. Hope that answers your question. There's another question here asking if we do T1s in RCT. Unfortunately, right now, RCT is just a T2 only product. And again, the focus was to help accounting firms get compliant in their T2 and review and compilations as efficiently as possible. And that's why we focus on the T2 product first to ensure that the T2 is available for corporations that want to do a review and a comp in RCT. We have another question over here asking about integration. So RCT on an import integrates directly with Xero and QuickBooks Online, the way Aaron showed. We also, again, like Aaron mentioned, support import from all of the desktop accounting packages like we have in the past. For an export perspective, if you're trying to export your tax data out, like Aaron mentioned, you can export Giphy, but there isn't any native export integrations yet. It's just export Giphy to get out the information if you needed to. Any licensing specific questions, we really recommend you reach out to us at info@caseware.com, or we can reach out to you after this webinar. It really depends on your current use with Caseware and the kind of plan you have today. So we'll love to connect with you guys about those kind of questions. That's all I'm seeing for questions. If there are any more that I missed, but if please feel free to type them or email us at info@caseware.com. We can stick around and address any if you guys want, or you can, when you get the follow-up email from the webinar, feel free to respond to that. We have more sessions coming up. We have next week, this is the first in the creating opportunities for today's series. Next week, Aaron Lucky, our head of product for Canada, and I will sit down and talk about the future of conducting audit in the cloud, or smart audit as I like to call it. And the week after that, we have Rohit Kundu, who's one of our sales leads as well, who show that sometimes all you need is just incremental changes in the way you work and your current processes without having to radically change everything to accelerate your firm's digital journey. So he's going to show you guys how, especially users of working papers today, how you can make small changes to your existing product to start embracing the cloud applications and really harness the efficiencies available from the cloud. With that, I just want to thank everyone for attending today. Again, info@caseware.com. If you have any specific questions, feel free to email us. And if there are any we missed, I'm just trying to scroll, but it's tough to see the ones that haven't been answered. But if we did miss it, we'll reach out to you directly and answer your questions. Thank you so much for attending today. We look forward to seeing you guys at our next webinar.
All right. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Shabazz.